Hello, welcome to our second video in the Easy Python course. Last time we discussed the variables, three types of variables we discussed. We discussed integers, floats, strings. These type of variables the interpreter knows. And today we will introduce another type of variable. It's called Boolean variable. Okay, what is Boolean variables? What are Boolean variables? Well, can relate back to our last lecture when we discussed GPAs, and we gave an example that GPAs could be 3.1 or 3.2, so could carry infinite number of values. Well, think about a subject that only has pass and fail. Okay, so the student only can get pass or fail. In this case, it's more appropriate to use Boolean variables. Let's give an example. So here I defined a Boolean variable called pass, and I assigned to it a value of true. You see that true color is changed because the interpreter knows true. Okay, so note that if you use true with a lowercase t, the interpreter doesn't know it. Okay, so be careful with this. So you will get an error actually because it will say that it doesn't know true. I remove this now. And then I ask the interpreter to print the value of pass, and we get true. Okay, and then you can also assign false, and you try to print it, and you get false. Okay, why this is useful? I mean, I give an example that you can choose it as a type of variables, for some type of like the example I gave, pass or fail, or on and off. This kind of type of variables that it will be convenient to have Boolean as a definition. Okay, but also it's very useful because it provides a way that you check to ask the computer some questions. For example, here I'm asking the computer if 10 is greater than 5. What do you think what do you expect the answer to be? Well, true, because 10 is greater than 5. Well, in the second line, I'm asking the computer is 5 is greater than 10, and this is false, because of course 5 is not greater than 10. You can also ask if 1 is equal to 1, and then you get true. And please notice here that I use two equal signs. Okay, so 1, 2. What happens if I used one equal sign? I get an error. Because one equal sign meaning that you assign a value to something. For example, if you say x equal to 1, you assign a value of 1 to variable x. So this is fine. But if you want to check if x equal to 1, you have to use it this way. You have to use two equal signs. Okay. And in the next line, I check if maybe x equal to 2, and this is wrong. So you get false. And in the next few lines, I just made another example where I have a variable x, I put 10 in this variable, and I have variable y where I put x plus 1 minus 1, so y at the end equal to x, equal to 10, and then I check if y equal to x, and this is true. I can also check if y doesn't equal x by this exclamation mark. Yeah, so you replace the equal with the exclamation mark. And then in this case, you are checking if x doesn't equal y. But this is false because x equals to y. Fine. So how could we use this? Well, we can use this with something called if condition. You can ask the computer to do some instructions if some condition satisfied. For example, you want to print that a student passed the exam if the variable pass equal to true. And this is the example here we have. Okay, so here I'm assigning true to pass. And then I check if pass equal true, print FIFA passed the exam. And this happens because the print statement, because pass equal to true, right? So if you set pass to false, nothing will happen. Printed nothing. Okay, and this is expected because you didn't tell the computer to do anything if this is not true. Put this back to true, and I run. You see the print statement back again. Okay, here notice this indentation. This line in note automatically move the line after the if condition toward the right, and this is called the indentation, and this also called the scope of the if condition. So anything aligned with this print statement, okay, will be included within the instruction that the computer has to perform if the if condition is satisfied. So for example, we can print here something else. I am inside the if condition. Okay. So this is included within the instructions that performed if pass is true. So if pass is false, none of them will be printed, right? However, if you move this to the left, you will see it would be printed because now it's not anymore inside the scope of the if condition. So it will be printed no matter if the condition is satisfied or not. This is very important. The indentation is very important concept in Python program. Okay, so let's do more complicated example. So here I have an if condition saying that if pass equal true, then print FIFA passed the exam. Else, should comment this, print FIFA failed. So here, FIFA passed the exam because pass is true. So let's make pass false and see what we get. So here, we get FIFA failed. So if the condition is satisfied, this is printed. But if not satisfied, then this is printed. You might have a more complicated case where you have a range of values. For example, I have a GPA, and as we agreed last time, and this time GPA could, because it's a float, could have infinite values, several values. So here, I mean, technically, in your school or college, it ranges between 2 to 4, maybe 1 to 4. So what do we have here? So I define a GPA as a variable, and it's float. So if you want to review what we studied last lecture, if you print the type GPA, you will see it will come to be float. We'll see this in a second. Okay, so we check if GPA is greater or equal than 3.6, then we assign a grade of 8. Please mind the indentation, know the indentation here. Okay, and then if the GPA is less than 3.6, and so see this and, the interpreter knows the and means that both conditions has to be satisfied for this instruction to be performed. Okay, so both conditions has to be satisfied. So GPA has to be less than 3.6, and it has to be greater than 3.2. Then we print B here. And if it's less than 3.2, but it's greater than 2.5, then the student gets C. The student gets C here. Okay, and if it's the GPA is less than 2.5, but it's greater than 2, then you print D. And in case that there is a weird value for GPA like -1 or 0, then print incomplete. Notice the OR here. OR means that any of the conditions satisfied, this will allow the computer to print this incomplete. So this instruction will be performed if either the condition satisfied. So OR means either the condition and means both condition has to be satisfied. Else you get failed. If the GPA is none of those values, then fail. Okay, if we run this, the first print statement, this type, okay, type is float here, and maybe we make it more clear by saying the type of GPA variable so the type of GPA variable is float, and then because it's 2.8, GPA is 2.8, we got C. So it's between 2.5 and 3.2. So what we get if we put 2, we get D, because it's greater or equal to 2. So you can, here it's equal to 2, so you are here, and it's also less than 2.5. So both are satisfied. Both conditions are satisfied, so that you get D. Well, if you put 0, oh sorry, 3.6. If you put here 0, the GPA value, you get incomplete because this condition is satisfied, and because it's OR, you don't need this condition to be satisfied to print the incomplete. Either condition would do it. Okay. Last thing we will discuss today is the nested if conditions. Nested means an if condition inside a if condition. To give an example on this, think about a car driving with two options, to drive to east or to west. And if then the driver drove to east, then there are two other options. So to drive north or to drive south. So if the guy drove north, then you want to print I'm going to New York. Then if he drove south, you want to print I'm going to Florida. And then from the beginning, if he drove west, then he's going to California. So again, you have option to drive east. And then if you drove east, there are two options for you, north or south. And if you drove west, there is no options. There is only one option, which is California. Okay, how would we do this? I wrote it here. By the way, I upload the code to GitHub that you will see in the description of the video. Okay, so if you need to download it, you just go to GitHub and download the files. Here is the first condition. If first direction, I define two variables here, one called first direction, one called second direction. So I define the first direction to be east, second direction to be north. Okay, so we say if first direction is equal to east, then there are two choices, that the second direction might equal to north or second direction might equal to south. So if it's equal to north, then you want to print I'm going to New York. If it's equal to south, then you are printing I'm going to Florida. And if we print this, you see that I'm going to New York. Well, what happens if I make the second variable south? So after I drive east, I'm driving south, then I go to Florida. Okay, so what happens if I make the first variable equal to west? Then I'm going to California, no matter what is the value of this variable, because there is no other direction or second direction within the west. Okay, so we are done with the if conditions, and next time we will do loops and another type of variables called lists. This is very important for dealing with the arrays. We will discuss this next time. And then we will do a project that includes many of the topic we discussed, and also things that we didn't discuss, but it's best when you learn from a project. So, but this is maybe after two more videos. So see you next time, and good luck.